O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased and well pleasing. Enter with my servants, enter into my garden. Holy Quran, chapter 27, verse 30. Chapter 13. Long Illness and Demise. Introduction. By the 1990s, Hadrat Sahib virtually spent all his time in Dargah Sharif as people sought his guidance daily. The network he had started in the 1950s had blossomed into a vast movement that involved tens of thousands of people. Despite his reservations, his fame had spread globally. People from all walks of life sought solace and guidance through his prayers. The political parties saw him as someone who was above politics, and some even came to ask his prayers. The scholars viewed him as a person who appreciated their services, and the Sufis saw him as a beacon of light in these troubled times, with many coming from far to seek his blessings. Mass movement. During the 1990s, Hadrat Sahib's fame had spread far and wide. He was uncomfortable with this situation, as he preferred a small number of sincere Sangis than a massive following that did not adhere to his core principles. He had set up numerous committees to deal with the wide-ranging activities that were taking place under his supervision. As time progressed, he could no longer inspect the mosques that were built across the country. Despite his ill health, he managed the entire network with the assistance of some dedicated Sangis. The adverse effect of fame is that one becomes a megalomaniac. However, this did not happen with Hadrat Sahib. For example, during this period of financial prosperity, he never had an electric fan or a fridge installed in his room. He used a clay pitcher for storing water and never drank any cold drinks. His lifestyle did not change in the slightest, but some people around him could not resist the change. During this period, Hadrat Sahib began the process of delegating some of the duties to his two sons, Sheikh Abad al-Wahid and Sheikh Mohammed Zahid. At this stage of his life, Hadrat Sahib, who was now in his 70s, had numerous health issues such as poor dentition. He had all his teeth taken out, but did not use dentures. Operations. In 1990, Hadrat Sahib's eyesight became weak and he lost vision in his left eye. He was advised to have an operation, so on the 22nd of November 1990, he was admitted into the Mission Hospital in Taxila, and on the 29th of November he was operated upon. The doctor who operated was from Belgium, and he took great care of Hadrat Sahib. As a token of his gratitude for the doctor's actions, Hadrat Sahib gave him an expensive watch as a gift. Some Sangis stayed at the hospital, and their food was either sent from Kotli or Jhelum. Even in this state, Hadrat Sahib offered his prayers in congregation. As Hadrat Sahib was unable to read due to the operation, a Sangi was instructed to read from a book for him. The doctors recommended the operation on the right eye, but Hadrat Sahib refused. They also suggested that he rest for 40 days and return for the second operation. He was discharged on the 6th of December and returned to Gulhar Sharif. Hadrat Sahib appointed different Sangis to read his litanies from the books, and, as advised by the doctors, he rested. Upon the request of the worried Sangis, Hadrat Sahib went back for the second operation on the 30th of April 1991, and the operation eventually took place on the 3rd of May. During his stay at the hospital, Hadrat Sahib's diet consisted of porridge, honey and Zamzam water. He was unable to attend his father's annual commemoration and sent a letter to the Sangis that was read out on occasion. He advised the Sangis not to visit him in the hospital because he did not want to inconvenience other patients. He instructed the Sangis to reflect on how they had spent the previous year. He wrote, "The purpose of this gathering is to assess one's attachment to faith. One should ask himself, have I followed the teachings of Qibla Alam? Anyone who does not want to use this occasion for reflection and improvement need not attend. Seekers of truth. During the last part of his life, the number of people seeking Hadrat Sahib's guidance had multiplied. People even came from the remotest parts of Pakistan. For example, a young man who lived in an isolated mountainous area and had little contact with the outside world made a long journey to visit him on the advice of his grandfather. His grandfather instructed him to visit a holy man, that was Hadrat Sahib, in Kashmir. As well as various people from Europe, one young man from the UK who had converted to Islam went with his friend to visit Hadrat Sahib in Pakistan. The journey to Kotli was tough, and the young man was shocked at how people could travel on these dangerous routes. When they finally arrived at the mosque, his friend spoke to one of the doorkeepers, and he was told that they had to leave. The young man was distraught and began to cry, as he had come all the way from the UK to meet Hadrat Sahib. As they were walking towards the exit of the mosque, the young man said, "Oh Sheikh, if you are a man of God, you will know how heartbroken I am." Suddenly the doorkeeper came running down the stairs leading to the exit and informed the young man that Hadrat Sahib had sent for him. The young man was then taken to Hadrat Sahib's room, and he was unable to utter a single word, and sat down and cried profusely. Accident. In 2004, at the age of 83, Hadrat Sahib had an accidental fall and injured his spine. Following this incident, Hadrat Sahib's mobility became gradually worse, and from then on he remained mostly bedridden. Hadrat Sahib's 4 children, 2 daughters and 2 sons, lovingly took care of him. His daughters would feed him, and the sons took care of all the guests and the financial cost of the treatment. A group of doctors and Sangis took care of him on different shifts, and he had 24 hours supervised care. The Sangis would attend to Hadrat Sahib's hygiene and provide physiotherapy for his rehabilitation. They would also rotate Hadrat Sahib from side to side to prevent bed sores. He would offer his prayers on his bed with the congregation, which was often led by Fadal Karim or Muhammad Bashir. Quite often Hadrat Sahib would be in the state of detachment from all else but God, hence his interaction with people was not normal, and at other times he would answer people's queries and relate stories from the bygone era. Earthquake. On the 8th of October 2005, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.6 occurred in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The worst affected area was Muzaffarabad. During this time, Hadrat Sahib was in Kotli, which is only 208 kilometres from Muzaffarabad. Many people in the UK had relatives in that region, and subsequently there was an outpouring of sympathy and grief for those affected by the devastating aftermath of the earthquake. The Muslims in the UK raised millions of funds in donation and sent clothing and medicine to the survivors. The aftershocks of the earthquake were felt as far as China. Although this area was significantly damaged during the earthquake, the loss of lives and destruction of mosques, homes and livestock weighed heavily upon the tender heart of Hadrat Sahib. He never complained about any tragedy in his life, whether it was personal or public, for he had complete trust in God. However, he felt the pain of these events more so than other people. This incident further deteriorated Hadrat Sahib's condition. Uncertainty. Over the next 3 years, every attempt was made to find a cure for Hadrat Sahib's growing health issues, to no avail. Many healers came and claimed that they had a treatment for Hadrat Sahib's illness, but all were unsuccessful. Public meetings were not possible anymore. Therefore, his bed was occasionally brought near the window to allow the Sangis to see him from the mosque. For the Sangis, a glimpse of Hadrat Sahib was like an ointment for the wounds in their hearts. The Sangis would read the Holy Quran, make dhikr and pray for Hadrat Sahib's health. One Sangi went to Medina Sharif, and as he offered his salutations to the Prophet, he prayed, "O my Lord, our lives are worthless." But by contrast, Hadrat Sahib's every breath carries immense benefit for the people. So, please God, take our lives and prolong Hadrat Sahib's life. During the long illness, there were occasions when people felt that Hadrat Sahib would not survive. On one occasion, it was announced in a UK mosque that he had passed away, and hundreds of worried Sangis from the UK went to Kotley to visit Hadrat Sahib. Such was the concern of the Sangis that on one day alone 17,000 people came to visit him. The Sangis were in a predicament of not knowing what would happen next. This uncertainty continued over the next few years. Final days. Hadrat Sahib never celebrated his birthday, but he viewed it as a day of gratitude to God. He would advise the Sangis to offer 2 units of voluntary prayer and beseech God for his health and salvation. On the 25th of December 2008, after the morning prayer, Qadi Rafiq reminded the Sangis in the mosque that it was Hadrat Sahib's birthday, and that as usual they should offer prayers for him. After sunrise prayers, the Sangis were offered tea, cake rusks, and a sweet dish for breakfast. Hadrat Sahib was persuaded by Dr. Akram, head of the medical team, to have a spoonful of the sweet dish. Hadrat Sahib's face glowed on this occasion, and he was in a cheerful mood that day and smiled at all the people who were present in his chamber. The following day, Hadrat Sahib's condition worsened. He was given a bath, and his clothes were changed, and despite his ill health, he instructed the Sangis to take him to the mosque to see the Sangis. Dr. Akram states, "I could not stop crying as I felt that this was his last public appearance." Over the next few days, Hadrat Sahib mostly remained silent. A few hours before his demise, both of Hadrat Sahib's daughters and younger daughters-in-law came to visit him and noticed that his lips were dry, so they offered him some water. He opened his eyes and looked at them, but declined the water. He turned his face away, closed his eyes, and continued inaudibly reciting something. On the 31st of December 2008, at around 10 p.m, a team of doctors performed a check-up on Hadrat Sahib and began a consultation outside his chamber. At around 11:15 p.m, 2 Sangis were present with Hadrat Sahib when he started to utter God's name out loud, and at that moment his soul departed his physical body. It is difficult to describe the grief of the Sangis, who had lost someone who was the most beloved person to them in their lives. The Sangis, who had spent most of their lives in his company, felt that they had surely died with Hadrat Sahib. One Sangi narrates, "On the 31st of December 2008, as I sat upstairs with some Sangis, I felt very restless and came out of the room and looked towards Hadrat Sahib's chamber. I felt as if darkness had descended in that area, and I ran towards Hadrat Sahib's room. I was informed that he had passed away, and with a broken heart I went and paid my final respects to Hadrat Sahib." According to Hadrat Sahib's instructions, his body was bathed in the adjacent room to his chamber. Then his blessed body was placed in his chamber for people to pay their respects. Throughout the night, both male and female Sangis separately viewed Hadrat Sahib's body, and this continued until 11 a.m. the following morning. It was announced that Hadrat Sahib's funeral would take place at Darsgah Sharif after the midday prayer. Sangis and non-Sangis alike came from different regions in Kashmir and Pakistan. Hundreds of Sangis from the UK travelled to Kotley to participate in the funeral. On the 1st of January 2009, his eldest son, Sheikh Abd al-Wahid, open brackets, Haji Pir Sahib, close brackets, led Hadrat Sahib's funeral prayer, which was the largest gathering of its kind in Kashmir. Eyewitness accounts suggest that such an outpour of grief had never been witnessed in that region. Hadrat Sahib was laid to rest next to his noble ancestor, Qadi Fath Allah Siddiqui. Although Hadrat Sahib remained discreet in his way of life, his guidance and influence rippled beyond Pakistan. In his view, sincerity and devotion towards our Creator's commands was the most important tool in this life, and relationships based on love for God were a means to achieve that. This was more reflective of true guidance for him than the number of followers he had. That being said, his followers grew from hundreds to thousands, then from thousands to hundreds of thousands, and beyond that. Hadrat Sahib's favourite prophetic prayer was, "O God, make me live among the poor, make me die amongst them, and resurrect me with them on the day of judgment." The pioneer, visionary, perfected master and guide had now left this temporal abode to finally reunite with his beloved, God. The departed melody may return or not. The breeze from Hijaz may blow again or not. The days of this mystic have come to an end. Another visionary may come or not. Iqbal.